She thought he never knew she had his baby, until the birth certificate she filed alone came back, signed. Before we begin, subscribe to Lily's Love Library and tell me where you're listening from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The envelope is waiting on the kitchen counter when Isabella comes home from work. It doesn't look threatening. No bold red stamps. No legal insignia. No courier uniform lingering at the door. Just heavy cream paper. Thick. Expensive. Her name written in clean, deliberate handwriting. Isabella Romano. Not forwarded. Not redirected. Delivered exactly where she lives now. A small coastal town 3 hours from the city she once swore she'd never return to. Her pulse slows instead of spikes. That's what unsettles her. She locks the door behind her, setting down her bag quietly while Gabriel's laughter echoes from the living room, where he's building something elaborate out of wooden blocks. "Mom, look!" he calls. "In a minute, sweetheart." She steps closer to the counter. There's no return address. No stamp she recognizes. Just wait. The paper feels almost textured beneath her fingers as she lifts it. For a brief, foolish second, she thinks it might be paperwork from the preschool. Or a billing error. Something ordinary. Ordinary is safe. She slides a finger beneath the sealed flap. The tier is clean. Inside is a single folded document. Official. Heavy stock. Her stomach tightens before she even opens it, because she recognizes the formatting instantly. Birth certificate, State of New York. Her vision narrows slightly as she unfolds it fully. Gabriel Romano. Date of birth. Hospital. Her name printed clearly on the mother's line. And then her breath stops. Father's name. Dante Moretti. Signed. Not typed. Signed. Bold black ink cuts cleanly across the page. The signature is unmistakable, sharp, controlled, confident. She's seen it before on contracts, checks, private agreements that never touched daylight. She filed this document alone. 5 years ago. She remembers sitting in a sterile hospital office, exhausted and terrified, filling out the forms while Gabriel slept in the bassinet beside her. When the nurse asked for the father's information, she paused, and then she wrote his name. Not because she planned to tell him, but because she couldn't erase him completely. She left the signature line blank. Told herself it didn't matter. Told herself he would never see it. Her hands begin to shake. The signature wasn't forged. It isn't a copy. It's fresh. Recent. The ink is darker than the original print. Her eyes scan the bottom corner. Amended record filed. 2 weeks ago. Her heart starts pounding now. Not from fear. From realization. Someone accessed the original. Someone retrieved it. Someone placed it in front of him. And he signed it. There's no legal demand attached. No custody claim. No court notice. Just acknowledgement. A quiet, irreversible claim. Mom? Gabriel appears in the doorway, holding a wooden block like a trophy. She turns the document face down instantly. Yes, baby. Why are you standing like that? She forces her breath to steady. Like what? Like when you think too much. Children notice everything. She smiles, the practiced, gentle one. Just mail. He nods and wanders back toward the living room. She waits until he's fully out of sight before turning the paper over again. The signature feels heavier now. Louder, as if the ink itself carries intention. Her gaze shifts back to the envelope. Something else slides out. A smaller, folded piece of paper. Thinner, handwritten. Her pulse stutters. She unfolds it slowly. 3 words. You should have told me. No greeting, no threat, no anger. Just certainty. Her knees feel weak enough that she grips the edge of the counter to steady herself. 5 years. 5 years of distance, of new cities, of avoiding certain news channels, of blocking private numbers, of pretending he never searched. And now this. Not a public confrontation. Not a dramatic arrival. A document. Signed. Recognized. Claimed. She presses her fingers against the signature again, as if it might disappear if she touches it long enough. He knows. The thought settles like gravity. He knows about Gabriel, and he didn't storm her door. He didn't send men. He sent paperwork, a statement that doesn't need volume. Gabriel laughs again from the living room. The sound cuts through her spiraling thoughts. Her son. Their son. She looks at the signature one more time. Dante Moretti, bold, unapologetic, permanent. For 5 years she believed silence protected them. But ink doesn't lie. And neither does acknowledgement. Somewhere, in the city she left behind, the most powerful man she ever loved signed his name beneath their child's. And he didn't ask. He declared, "The paper is smaller than she expected. Not official, not embossed. Just a simple cream card folded once. It smells faintly of ink and something darker, leather maybe, or memory." Isabella unfolds it slowly, her fingertips cold despite the warmth of the kitchen. 3 words, "You should have told me." No signature. He doesn't need one. The handwriting is unmistakable, precise, controlled, slightly slanted to the right. She's seen it before on private notes left on her nightstand. On contracts slid across polished oak tables. On a napkin once when he wrote down a phone number and told her calmly that she would call. No threats, no accusations. Just certainty. Her breath leaves her lungs in a slow, uneven exhale. You should have told me. Not why didn't you? Not how could you? Not I'm coming for you. The restraint unsettles her more than fury ever could. Gabriel's laughter floats in again from the living room, followed by the crash of wooden blocks toppling over. "Mom, it fell!" he calls. "I'm coming," she says automatically, but she doesn't move. Her eyes remain locked on the ink. 5 years ago, she left before dawn. No goodbye. No explanation. She remembers standing in the doorway of his penthouse bedroom, watching him sleep for one long, fragile second before walking away. He had blood on his knuckles that night. A rival syndicate had made a move at one of his clubs. Shots fired. Retaliation promised. She had discovered she was pregnant 2 weeks earlier. She hadn't told him. She told herself she would. After things calmed down. After the violence settled. After the world felt less sharp. It never did. So she packed instead. Left the city. Changed numbers. Changed addresses. Built a new life out of quiet routines and small-town anonymity. She convinced herself he would move on. That he would assume she left because she couldn't handle his world. Not because she was carrying his child. Now the note trembles slightly in her hand. You should have told me. There's no anger in the words, but there is something worse. Hurt. Measured and controlled, but unmistakable. He found out. Not from her. Not from a confrontation. From a document she filed alone. Her chest tightens. How? She thinks of passport applications. Of school enrollment forms. Of hospital databases she once assumed were anonymous. Dante Moretti doesn't operate inside normal limitations. If there's a thread, he finds it. If there's a name attached to his, he notices. She presses her fingertips to her temple, trying to slow her racing thoughts. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. The birth certificate was amended, filed, signed, legally recognized. That means he didn't just discover Gabriel. He claimed him, publicly, without calling her first. Without warning. Her world tilts slightly. Not from fear of him. From the realization that her control over this narrative is gone. Mom? Gabriel appears in the doorway again, eyes bright, hair messy from running his hands through it while building. She quickly folds the note and slips it back into the envelope. Yes, sweetheart? Why do you look sad? She forces a smile. I'm not sad. He studies her carefully, far too observant for 5. You do when you think about the city, he says quietly. Her breath falters. What city? The one you don't like talking about. She kneels in front of him, brushing a curl away from his forehead. That city, gave me you, she says softly. He smiles at that, satisfied, and runs back to his blocks. She remains kneeling for a second longer. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that his father signed his name on a piece of paper 2 weeks ago. He doesn't know that the man Isabella tried to erase from their daily life has just stepped back into it, without stepping into the room. The note burns heavier in her pocket now. Not a threat. A reckoning. You should have told me. She replays the words again and again. Would he have protected them? Would he have tightened security until the walls felt like a fortress? Would he have insisted on raising Gabriel inside a world she ran from? Or would he have done exactly what he did now? Recognized, claimed, waited. There's no demand attached to the envelope, no deadline, no order to return. Just acknowledgement, which means he's giving her space. Space to decide what happens next. That's what truly unbalances her. Dante was never reckless. He was patient, strategic. If he wanted to storm her door, he would have. Instead, he sent ink, a signature, a message that says he knows, and he's not pretending otherwise. Her phone sits on the counter beside the envelope, silent, for now. She stares at it longer than she means to, because if he signed the certificate 2 weeks ago, that means he's known for at least that long. And he hasn't called, hasn't appeared, hasn't demanded anything, which means he's waiting. For her. And Isabella realizes something she's been avoiding for 5 years. Silence protected her from confrontation, but it never protected her from truth. And now truth has her address. The night she left, the city smelled like smoke and rain. Isabella remembers the sound first. Not music, not laughter. Gunfire. Dante's club had always been controlled chaos. Velvet ropes, polished marble, men in tailored suits pretending they weren't armed. It was one of his legitimate businesses, the kind meant to soften the image of everything else. Until it wasn't. She had been upstairs in his private office when the first shot rang out below. Sharp. Too close. The music cut off mid-beat. Screams followed, not panicked yet, just startled. Dante was already moving before the second shot echoed. "Stay here," he told her. He didn't shout. He never shouted. But his eyes had changed, darkened into something lethal and focused. She watched him open the drawer of his desk and retrieve a weapon with practiced ease. No hesitation. No fear. Just readiness. The third shot was louder. Closer. Isabella's heart slammed against her ribs. "Dante!" "Lock the door," he said calmly, already halfway to it. "Don't open it for anyone but me." And then he was gone. She stood frozen for one fragile second before the sounds below erupted fully, furniture overturning, glass shattering, men shouting commands in Italian she didn't fully understand. Her hands moved instinctively to her stomach. 2 weeks. She had known for 2 weeks. She hadn't told him yet. She had planned to. That night, maybe, over dinner, somewhere without blood in the air. The office door shook faintly as someone collided with the wall outside. Footsteps thundered past. A scream. Then silence. Heavy. Controlled silence. Minutes stretched. 5. 10. 15. She didn't know. When the door finally opened, Dante stood there with blood on his collar. Not his. She could tell by the way he moved. The cut along his knuckles was fresh, though, a thin line of red running down his hand. "It's handled," he said. Like it was weather. Like it was traffic. Handled. She stepped toward him, her throat tight. "Was anyone?" "They won't try that again." It wasn't reassurance. It was promise. Behind him, 2 men dragged someone down the hallway. The rival family had escalated things in recent weeks, testing territory lines, probing for weakness. This was no longer subtle. It was war creeping closer. Later, when the police reports were manipulated and the club reopened with a fresh coat of calm, Isabella overheard something she was never meant to. She had been standing in the hallway outside Dante's study. The door was slightly open. 2 of his captains were inside. "They're not aiming at the business anymore," one said quietly. "They're aiming at leverage." "Family?" the other asked. A pause. "If they find one." The words hit her like ice water. "If they find one." Dante's voice followed, lower than the others. "They won't." There was absolute certainty in it. Not because he lacked enemies, but because he controlled exposure. She stepped away before they noticed her. That night, she lay beside him in bed, staring at the ceiling long after his breathing evened out. Her hand rested lightly against her abdomen. He didn't know. No one knew. If they found one. The phrase replayed over and over in her mind. Dante would fortify. He would protect. He would build walls high enough to block out the world. But walls attract siege. She imagined a child growing up with armed drivers, with security codes instead of playgrounds, with whispers about territory instead of bedtime stories. And she imagined something worse. A rival discovering she was pregnant, using it, weaponizing it. Because in Dante's world, love wasn't weakness. It was leverage. By dawn, she had already decided. She waited until he left for an early meeting. She packed one suitcase. She left the penthouse key on the kitchen counter. No note, no explanation. Because if she wrote one, she might stay. She told herself she was choosing safety. Choosing a smaller life over a powerful one. Choosing ordinary over blood. The last time she looked back at the skyline, it was through the window of a taxi headed toward the train station. She pressed her palm against her stomach and whispered, "I'm sorry." Not to Dante, to the man he might have been in another world. And now, 5 years later, standing in her quiet kitchen with his signature inked beneath their son's name, she realizes something brutal. She buried the secret to protect her child from blood and power. But blood doesn't forget. And power doesn't disappear just because she walked away. Dante Moretti doesn't discover things by accident. He builds systems that notice what others overlook. The passport application was routine, digital, quiet, submitted through standard government channels like millions of others. Gabriel Romano, age 5, application for a minor passport. Mother, Isabella Romano. Father, left blank on the form, ordinary. Except Dante funds an analytics firm that monitors municipal data shifts inside territories once tied to his name. Officially, it's for infrastructure security, tracking patterns that might indicate threats, fraud, or targeted manipulation. Unofficially, it's a net. Not for enemies alone, for anomalies. The alert came through at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. Not dramatic. Just a flagged correlation in a database his division quietly mirrors from public hospital records. Years ago, after a kidnapping attempt on the child of one of his associates, Dante ordered something most people would call excessive. He built a shadow registry. Every birth filed in specific hospitals during the years he was publicly linked to Isabella was archived. Not to track her, to track risk, to know if anyone tried to use his name. Most of the time, the system remained silent, until it didn't. Gabriel Romano, date of birth, 5 years prior. Hospital, Manhattan Memorial. Mother, Isabella Romano. The record had been dormant, unnoticed, because the father's line remained unsigned. But when the passport application cross-referenced hospital DNA markers, required for international travel clearance in minors, the system pinged. A genetic overlap percentage well above coincidence. The match was not weak. It was definitive. Dante was in his office overlooking the city when the alert appeared on the tablet placed quietly beside his hand. He didn't react immediately. Didn't slam his fist against the desk. Didn't call anyone in. He read the data, twice, then a third time. Gabriel Romano, 5 years old. The timeline aligned too precisely to ignore. He remembered the month she left. The night at the club. The argument they never had because she never stayed long enough for it. He had searched for her, quietly, systematically, not with headlines. not with public desperation, just structured reach. And then he stopped. Because chasing a woman who clearly wanted distance is not strategy. But this was not distance. This was omission. He called in Luca, head of his private investigations unit. "Pull the file," Dante said evenly. Within minutes, hospital records were reconstructed. Birth certificate copy retrieved. The father's name listed, Dante Moretti. Unsigned, he stared at the blank line for a long moment. She wrote his name. She didn't erase him. She just didn't tell him. "Run the DNA confirmation," he instructed calmly. "Already initiated," Luca replied. When the results came back, they were irrefutable. 99.97% probability. A son, 5 years old, existing, living, growing up without him knowing. The fury did not explode. It condensed, compressed into something far more dangerous than shouting. He dismissed everyone from the room, sat alone, looked at the photograph attached to the passport submission. A small boy with dark eyes and stubborn brows. The resemblance was not subtle. It was undeniable. Dante leaned back in his chair, studying the child's face. His child. There was no immediate call to arms, no demand for her location. He did not dispatch men to retrieve her. He amended the birth certificate, signed the father's line himself, filed the legal acknowledgement through channels that would make the update official, but quiet. No press, no legal war, just recognition. Then he instructed his team to monitor the address linked to the passport application. Not to intervene, to observe. Because if someone else noticed the same data shift, they might move first. And Dante Moretti never allows someone else to move first when leverage is involved. 2 weeks passed. He did not call, did not appear. He waited, to see if she would reach out. She didn't. So he sent the envelope. Not a threat, a declaration. "You should have told me." He didn't write why. He didn't write "how dare you." He wrote the only thing that mattered. Because the systems he built to protect his empire had uncovered something far more personal. Not a rival's maneuver. Not an attack. A secret. And secrets in Dante's world are never left unattended. Especially when they carry his blood. The phone rings at 8:17 p.m. Gabriel is already in pajamas, sprawled across the living room rug with crayons scattered around him. He's drawing something with fierce concentration. A castle with impossibly tall towers, and stick figures standing at the gate. Isabella is at the sink, rinsing plates that don't need rinsing. She sees the screen light up on the counter. Private number. Her pulse doesn't spike. It drops. She knew this would happen. The envelope was never meant to be the end of it. The phone continues vibrating against the marble surface. Gabriel looks up. "Are you gonna get that?" She forces a small shrug. Probably spam. It rings 4 times. 5. 6. She doesn't move. If she answers, the silence she built for 5 years collapses. If she doesn't, she controls the timing. The call stops. The quiet that follows feels heavier than the ringing did. Her heart counts the seconds. 3, 4, 5. The phone vibrates again. A voicemail notification. She stares at the screen like it might burn her. Gabriel goes back to coloring. The castle grows taller. She dries her hands slowly on a dish towel and picks up the phone. Her thumb hovers over the notification. She could delete it, pretend she never saw it. But Dante Moretti does not send things by accident. If he called, he expected silence. And he left a message anyway. She presses play. There's no background noise, no echo, no traffic. Just his voice. Calm. Controlled. Isabella. The sound of her name in his mouth after 5 years is almost disorienting. He doesn't rush. Doesn't fill the silence unnecessarily. "I received confirmation." Her breath catches. Not anger. Not accusation. Information. A pause. Then, "We need to talk." That's it. No location. No demand. No threat. just inevitability. She replays it. Once. Twice. The steadiness in his tone unsettles her more than fury ever could. If he were shouting, she could brace herself. If he were threatening custody, she could prepare for war. But calm means strategy. Calm means he already thought through the next 10 moves. Gabriel pads into the kitchen, holding up his drawing. "Look!" She turns quickly, locking the phone screen. "That's beautiful," she says, kneeling slightly to examine it. There are 3 stick figures now, one taller than the other 2. "Who's that?" she asks lightly, pointing to the tallest. Gabriel shrugs. "Just someone at the gate." Her chest tightens. "You don't know him?" "No," he says simply. "He's just there." She smooths her hand over his hair. "Go brush your teeth, okay?" He nods and disappears down the hallway. The house grows quiet again. She picks up the phone, stares at the private number. 5 years ago, she memorized it, then forced herself to forget it. Now it sits there like a door left slightly open. She types a message, deletes it, types another, deletes that too. What do you say to the father of your child after half a decade of silence? Sorry? I was scared? I thought I was protecting him. None of it fits inside a text bubble. The phone vibrates again. Private number. Her breath catches sharply. She lets it ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. She presses decline. The voicemail notification appears almost immediately. He anticipated that too. She presses play again. His tone hasn't changed. "I'm not calling to argue." A slight pause. "I'm not calling to threaten you." Another pause. "But this isn't something we handle through envelopes." The faintest edge of something beneath the calm. Not anger. Hurt. "I won't involve lawyers," he continues, "unless you force that." Her heart pounds now. That isn't a threat. It's a boundary. "Call me back," he finishes. The message ends. No goodbye. No signature. She leans against the counter, staring at nothing. He isn't storming her door. He isn't sending men. He's giving her space. Which means he believes she'll take it. That's what unsettles her most. He knows her well enough to trust that she won't ignore this forever. The phone rests heavy in her hand. Gabriel's toothbrush hums faintly in the bathroom down the hall. She could keep avoiding him. Pretend she needs time. But time is what created this fracture in the first place. Her thumb hovers over the number, then lowers. Not yet. She places the phone face down on the counter. For tonight, she keeps control. For tonight, she keeps distance. But the voicemail lingers in her ears. We need to talk. Not if, not should. Need. And Isabella realizes something she's been resisting since the envelope arrived. Silence bought her 5 years. It won't buy her a 6th. He doesn't call again the next day, or the day after that, which somehow makes it worse. Isabella spends 48 hours jumping at every unfamiliar car that passes her street. Every knock at the door tightens her chest. Every unknown number makes her stomach drop. But nothing happens. Until Saturday morning. The doorbell rings at 10:12 a.m., not aggressive, not repeated. Once. Clean. She's in the kitchen slicing strawberries while Gabriel sits at the table building a fortress out of cereal boxes. Her hand freezes mid-cut. She doesn't need to look through the window to know. She wipes her hands slowly on a towel and walks to the door. Her pulse is steady. Not calm. Prepared. When she opens it, Dante Moretti is standing on her porch. Alone. No black SUVs lining the curb. No men positioned along the fence. Just him. Dark jacket. Open collar. Sunglasses removed, hanging from one hand. He looks the same. Maybe sharper. Older by experience, not by time. His gaze sweeps over her once, not lingering, not possessive. Assessing. "You got my message," he says calmly. Not a question. "Yes." He nods once. Silence stretches between them. This is the moment she imagined for 5 years. Explosive, confrontational, accusatory. Instead, it's quiet, measured. "I'm not here to make a scene," he says. "I can see that." His eyes shift slightly past her shoulder. Is he here? The question lands heavier than it should. Yes. May I? Not demand. Request. She hesitates for only a second before stepping aside. He doesn't brush against her as he enters. Doesn't invade space. He moves into the living room like someone walking into a museum, aware that everything matters. Gabriel looks up from the floor where he's arranging toy cars in precise rows. He squints slightly at the unfamiliar figure. "Hi," Dante says evenly. No dramatic pause. No declaration. Just acknowledgement. Gabriel studies him the way children study everything new, openly, without shame. "Do I know you?" he asks. Dante kneels, slowly, bringing himself to eye level. The resemblance is immediate, unavoidable. The same dark eyes, the same sharp line of the jaw, even the slight crease between the brows when concentrating. Isabella feels it like a physical shift in the air. "I know you," Dante says quietly. Gabriel tilts his head. "You do?" "Yes." "How?" A faint, almost imperceptible softness touches Dante's expression. "Because I've been looking at your picture." Gabriel considers this. "Mom takes a lot of pictures," he says matter-of-factly. Dante's gaze flickers to Isabella briefly, then back to the boy. "May I sit?" he asks. Gabriel shrugs. "It's not my house." Dante sits cross-legged on the rug without hesitation. Not graceful, not awkward, just deliberate. "You like cars?" he asks, gesturing to the line of toy vehicles. "Yeah." "What's this one?" "That's the fastest," Gabriel says, pointing. Dante nods thoughtfully. "I prefer something reliable," he replies. Gabriel grins slightly. Fast is better. A ghost of a smile touches Dante's mouth. Sometimes. Isabella watches from the doorway, arms crossed tightly over her chest. There's no hostility in the room, no raised voices, no dramatic confrontation, just gravity. After a moment, Gabriel looks up again. "You look like me," he says bluntly. The words hang in the air. Dante doesn't hesitate. "I was thinking the same thing." Gabriel glances at Isabella. She feels the question forming before he speaks it. "Mom?" She steps forward slowly. "Yes, sweetheart." "Is he my dad?" There it is. Not whispered, not confused, direct. She looks at Dante. He doesn't speak, doesn't claim the moment. He leaves it to her. For 5 years she controlled this narrative. She built it, protected it, shaped it carefully. Now it stands in the center of her living room, kneeling on the rug. "Yes," she says quietly. Gabriel blinks. "That's why he knows me?" "Yes." A pause. Then, "Oh," not dramatic, just acceptance. He looks back at Dante. "You're late." The honesty almost knocks the breath out of Isabella. Dante doesn't flinch. "I know," he says. No defense, no excuse. Gabriel nods once, as if filing that away for later. "Okay." And then he goes back to lining up his cars. As if the axis of his world didn't just shift slightly. Dante remains seated for a moment longer, watching him. Not with triumph, not with entitlement, with recognition. The resemblance isn't just physical, it's presence, energy. She sees it clearly now. She can't hide it anymore. Dante rises slowly to his feet. He doesn't reach for Gabriel, doesn't attempt to touch him. He turns to Isabella. "We need to talk," he says again. But this time, it isn't through a voicemail. It's in her living room, with their son 10 feet away. And the truth no longer folded inside an envelope. Gabriel is in his room, door half closed, humming softly while he lines up his cars along the edge of the bed. Isabella stands in the kitchen, arms wrapped around herself, listening to the faint rhythm of her son's voice through the hallway. Dante remains near the dining table, not pacing, not looming, simply standing, hands loosely clasped in front of him, as if holding something invisible in place. He doesn't start immediately. He waits until he hears Gabriel's bedroom door click fully shut. Then he looks at her. "You decided for both of us." The words aren't sharp. They aren't shouted. They land with weight because they're quiet. Isabella holds his gaze. "I did what I thought was necessary." "For who?" he asks evenly. "For him." "And me?" Dante's voice doesn't rise. "Did I not factor into that equation?" Her jaw tightens. "You factor into everything," she says. "That was the problem." He absorbs that without interruption. No defensive reaction, no dismissive laugh. Just stillness. "You left," he says, without a word. "Yes." "You disappeared." "Yes." "You carried my son for 9 months and never told me." The word "my" isn't possessive. It's injured. She exhales slowly. "You had enemies escalating. Your club was shot up. You were planning retaliation." And I wasn't going to raise a child inside that." He nods once, slowly. "As if I would have." She almost laughs, but there's no humor in it. "You think you would have walked away from your world?" she asks quietly. "No. Exactly." His eyes darken slightly. "You think my world makes me incapable of being a father?" "I think your world makes everything a risk." Silence stretches, measured. "You decided," he repeats, "that I wasn't allowed to know. You weren't safe." He lets out a controlled breath. "Safe," he echoes. "Yes." "For who?" "For you. For him. For me?" There's the faintest flicker of disbelief. "You thought not knowing I had a son would protect me?" She hesitates. "Knowing gives enemies leverage." "And ignorance gives them advantage," he counters calmly. She feels that one land. "You overheard something," he says, reading the shift in her expression. She looks up sharply. "How do you—" "You don't make decisions like that impulsively." She swallows. "They were talking about leverage," she admits quietly. "About family." His jaw tightens slightly. "And you assumed I didn't already account for that. You can't account for everything." "No," he agrees, "but I account for what matters." The words hang heavy. "You don't get to rewrite this as strategy," she says. "I'm not rewriting anything." "Then what are you doing?" "Understanding." The simplicity disarms her. "You think I don't see the resemblance?" he continues. "You think I didn't look at that photograph and feel—" He stops himself, not because he can't finish, because he chooses not to. "Feel what?" she presses softly. His composure fractures, not visibly, not dramatically, but enough. 5 years, he says quietly. 5 birthdays. First steps. First words. The calm cracks just slightly around the edges. "I wasn't given the choice to be there." Her throat tightens. "You weren't given the choice to put him at risk either," she replies. "I wasn't given the choice at all." That's the one that hurts, because it's true. She rubs her arms slowly, as if cold. "I was scared," she says. "I know." "You don't sound like you do." "I do." His voice lowers. "I'm not angry that you were afraid." She looks at him. "I'm angry that you didn't trust me." The honesty in it lands harder than shouting would have. "You trusted me with your life," he continues, "but not with his." She doesn't have a clean answer for that. "You decided I would choose power over him," Dante says. "I decided power would swallow him. And you decided that alone." She exhales shakily. "I didn't think you'd let me leave if you knew." He doesn't deny it. No, he says quietly. I wouldn't have. There's no threat in it, just truth. I would have built protection around you both. That's exactly what I didn't want, she whispers. Guards, surveillance, walls. You think walls are cages. I think they're targets. His gaze sharpens. You think hiding in a small town without protection is safer? I thought distance mattered. Distance is an illusion. The words are calm, controlled. But the hurt beneath them is unmistakable. You looked at me and saw danger, he says quietly. She shakes her head. I looked at you and saw a war I couldn't win. He studies her for a long moment. Then, you didn't give me the chance to choose differently. The quiet fury in that statement is sharper than any explosion. She steps closer without realizing it. You would have stayed in that world. Yes, and dragged him into it. No, the answer is immediate. You don't know that, she says. I do. The certainty unsettles her. Because I would have chosen him, he says quietly. The air shifts. He isn't posturing. He isn't performing. He's stating something structural. You think I wouldn't burn down everything for my child? He asks softly. Her breath falters. You built everything, she whispers. I can rebuild. The simplicity in that sentence shakes her more than anger would have. Silence settles between them again. He doesn't move closer, doesn't reach for her. Just stands there, controlled, composed, but undeniably wounded. You decided for both of us, he says one last time. Not as accusation, as fact. And for the first time in 5 years, Isabella feels the full weight of what that decision cost. He's still standing in her kitchen when she finally says it. You want the real reason? Dante's gaze sharpens slightly. Yes. Not impatient. Not demanding. Steady. Isabella exhales slowly and moves to the other side of the counter, as if the granite between them can steady her. It wasn't just the shooting, she begins. It wasn't just the club. He waits. She presses her palms flat against the surface, grounding herself. It was what I heard afterward. A flicker crosses his expression. What did you hear? She swallows. 2 of your captains, outside your study. They thought I'd already gone upstairs. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. They were talking about the rival family, she continues. About escalation. He doesn't interrupt. They said they weren't targeting businesses anymore. They were looking for leverage. The word hangs between them like smoke, and then one of them said, if they find one. Dante's posture stills completely. Find one, he repeats quietly. A family member, she says. A weakness. He exhales slowly through his nose. I told them that wouldn't happen. You said they won't. His eyes narrow slightly. You were listening. Yes. Silence stretches, but this one is different. He isn't hurt now. He's calculating. I had just found out I was pregnant, she says softly. That lands. Even though he already knows about Gabriel, the timeline hits differently spoken out loud. I hadn't told you yet, she continues. I was waiting for things to calm down. They never do, he replies. Exactly. Her voice cracks slightly on that word. I imagined someone finding out, she says. A nurse, a clerk, someone careless with paperwork. He doesn't dismiss it, doesn't call it paranoia, because in his world, it isn't. I imagined a rival discovering I was carrying your child before you even knew, she continues. Using that, his jaw flexes, and you decided to remove the possibility. Yes. By removing yourself. Yes. And removing me from the decision. Her eyes flash. You would have fortified. Yes. You would have added security, surveillance, guards. Yes. You would have turned pregnancy into an operation, A beat of silence. Yes. There's no apology in the admission. No shame. Just reality. And that, she says quietly, would have confirmed to everyone watching that there was something to protect. He considers that. You think disappearing erased suspicion? I think it removed confirmation. He studies her carefully. You left before anyone knew. Yes. Not even your doctor. I transferred hospitals under a different name. A flicker of something like reluctant respect passes through his expression. You were thorough, he says quietly. I was terrified. The word is honest, unfiltered. I didn't trust your world to leave him alone, she admits, and I didn't trust you to choose him over it. The statement hangs heavy. He doesn't react immediately, doesn't defend himself. He walks slowly toward the window, staring out at the quiet coastal street. You heard men speculate, he says finally, and you believed that was inevitable. It was plausible. Yes, he turns back to her, but you didn't give me the chance to respond. I responded, she says. I left. You assumed I would treat our child as leverage. I assumed your enemies would. A pause. That's different. Not in practice. He absorbs that. You think I didn't already anticipate that threat? He asks quietly. I think you accept threat as part of life. I mitigate it. You live inside it. He nods once. True. There's no denial. No child of mine would have been unprotected, he continues. I didn't want protected, she says. I wanted unknown. The distinction matters to her. He sees that. You chose anonymity over power. Yes? And you think that was safer? At the time? Yes. Silence fills the space between them again. Not combative. Heavy, with hindsight. I wasn't punishing you, she says quietly. I know. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I know. You were trying to eliminate variables, he finishes. Yes. He nods slowly. You removed yourself from the board. And took him with me. He studies her for a long moment. You should have told me, he says again, but this time it is an accusation. It's something else. Regret. If I had, she whispers, you would have tried to stop me. Yes, and I wouldn't have left. Yes. And then he would have been born into war. His gaze hardens slightly. No. The certainty is back, but softer now. War is temporary, he says. Blood is permanent. Now she looks toward the hallway where Gabriel is quietly playing. You think I overreacted. I think you were alone with fear, he replies. That lands more gently than anything else he's said. And you made the only decision you thought would guarantee survival. She exhales slowly. Yes. He steps closer again. But you decided survival meant absence, he says quietly. And now? She asks. His gaze shifts toward the hallway too. Now, he says, absence is no longer an option. The paperwork happens without spectacle. No courtroom, no dramatic confrontation, no custody filing served at her door. Just efficiency. 3 days after his visit, Isabella receives an email from the state registry office notifying her of an updated amendment to Gabriel's birth record. She doesn't open it immediately. She already knows. Dante had been clear. He wasn't going to involve lawyers. He was going to acknowledge. The difference matters. Gabriel is at preschool when she finally clicks the attachment. Official seal. Amended record of live birth. Name of child. Gabriel Romano Moretti. Her breath stills. The hyphen feels heavier than it should. Not an erasure. An addition. Her name remains. His name stands beside it. Balanced. Permanent. Father, Dante Alessandro Moretti, legally recognized, filed, recorded. No contest, no petition, just executed. Her phone buzzes almost immediately after she finishes reading. Private number. She answers this time. It's done, Dante says calmly. I saw. I didn't remove you. I noticed. A faint pause. I wouldn't. The statement is simple, not defensive, structural. This makes him visible, she says quietly. He was always visible, Dante replies. Now it's deliberate. She closes her eyes briefly. What does that mean? It means anyone checking records understands he isn't unclaimed. The phrasing sends a chill down her spine. Unclaimed. Leverage only works when ownership is unclear. Claimed children are harder to touch, still possible, but costly. You said no lawyers, she reminds him. There were none. And if I objected? You didn't. She exhales slowly. He's right. She didn't. Because part of her understands the strategy. The hyphen isn't romantic, it's armor. That afternoon, 2 discrete vehicles begin appearing at different intervals along her street. Not parked directly outside, not obvious, but present. She notices the same dark sedan idling at the corner during pickup time, a different SUV across from the grocery store later that evening. No uniforms, no weapons visible, just watchful stillness. Her phone pings again. A secure message this time. Camera installation confirmed. Perimeter sweep complete. School route assessed. She stares at the text longer than she means to. He didn't ask. He informed. Not as dominance, as deployment. That evening, when she picks Gabriel up from preschool, the administrator calls her into the office briefly. We received updated guardianship documentation, the woman says carefully. From the state. Isabella nods. Yes. There's also a note indicating an emergency contact edition. She already knows who. Dante Moretti, the administrator reads quietly. Recognition flickers in the woman's expression. Not fear. Awareness. We'll need his identification on file. You'll have it. Gabriel bursts into the office mid-conversation, backpack half-zipped. Mom, can we get ice cream? She smiles. Yes. As they walk to the car, she notices something else. Parents who usually barely glance her way now do a double take. Whispers travel fast in small towns. Records are searchable. Names recognizable. She feels it shift in real time. Anonymity dissolving. Visibility replacing it. That night, Dante calls again. Not private. Direct. Any issues? He asks. No. School notified? Yes. Good. She leans against the kitchen counter, watching Gabriel build another impossible tower from blocks. You moved fast, she says. I waited 5 years. The quiet truth in that lands heavily. You understand this changes things, she says. Yes. We won't be invisible anymore. No. Silence settles. You're not angry, she says carefully. I am, he replies evenly. Then why don't you sound like it? Because anger doesn't solve infrastructure. The calmness is almost unnerving. You're building a perimeter, she says. Yes. And if someone tests it, they won't. The certainty in his tone is absolute. Not arrogance, calculation. Later that night, after Gabriel falls asleep, she checks the front door twice. Not out of fear, out of awareness. There's a difference now. Before, she locked doors hoping no one noticed. Now she locks them knowing someone is watching. The hyphen on Gabriel's name isn't decorative. It's a signal. Romano Moretti, not hidden, not ambiguous, claimed. Protection shifts immediately. Information moves faster. Routes are monitored. Patterns assessed. She didn't move back into Dante's world. He extended it around her. And for the first time since the envelope arrived, Isabella understands something clearly. The signature wasn't just acknowledgement. It was strategy. And now, anyone considering leverage will have to consider the cost. She notices the car on a Tuesday. It's subtle at first. A dark gray sedan parked half a block down, engine off, windows tinted just enough to blur the driver's face. Small towns don't usually have anonymous cars. People wave, people nod, people recognize. This car doesn't belong. Isabella tells herself she's imagining it, that Dante's visibility has made her hyper-aware. But when she walks Gabriel to school the next morning, the sedan rolls slowly past them. Not speeding, not obvious, just present. Her spine tightens. She doesn't look directly at it, doesn't react. Gabriel swings his backpack against his legs, humming something under his breath. "Mom? Yes? Why are you walking so fast?" She slows immediately. Habit. The sedan idles briefly at the stop sign ahead, then turns the corner. Gone. Her phone buzzes in her coat pocket. A message from an unknown encrypted number. Gray vehicle. 2 occupants. Running plates. Her pulse spikes. They're already tracking it. She doesn't reply. She doesn't need to. By the time she returns from dropping Gabrielle off, the sedan is back. Same spot. Engine running this time. Her heart pounds steadily now, not wildly. A controlled fear. This is what she imagined 5 years ago. This is the scenario she ran from. Someone watching, assessing, calculating value. She unlocks the front door calmly and steps inside without looking back. 2 minutes later, her phone rings. "Dante." She answers immediately. "I see it," she says before he speaks. "So do I." His voice is calm. Too calm. "Do not approach," he says. "I wasn't planning to." There's a pause. "Stay inside." She moves toward the living room window, parting the curtain just slightly. The sedan remains parked, engine humming faintly. "What do you know?" she asks quietly. Plate is registered to a shell company. Rental, paid in cash. Her stomach drops. "That's not random." "No." A second vehicle appears at the far end of the street. Black. Unremarkable. It doesn't slow. It just passes the gray sedan. And continues. A test. The gray sedan doesn't move. Another message buzzes through her phone. Intercept in progress. Her pulse climbs. "You're doing something," she says. "Yes." The black vehicle circles the block. This time it slows slightly as it approaches the sedan. The driver of the gray car shifts. Door opens. A man steps out. Late 30s. Baseball cap pulled low. He pretends to check his phone. The black SUV stops directly in front of him. Doors open. 2 men step out. No weapons visible. No shouting. Just controlled presence. The man in the cap stiffens. Tries to step back. One of Dante's men blocks him easily. The exchange is brief, tense, measured. The second occupant of the sedan exits slowly, hands visible. Isabella's breath catches. "They're intercepting," she whispers. "Yes." The words are almost clinical. "What if they're just lost?" she says, even though she doesn't believe it. "Then they'll be free to explain that." From her window, she watches as one of Dante's men reaches into the sedan and retrieves something from the passenger seat. A camera. Long lens. Her throat closes. Not casual surveillance. Targeted. One of the men speaks into a small earpiece. The gray sedan's occupants are escorted into the back of the black SUV. No fight, no spectacle, just removal. Within minutes, both vehicles are gone. The street looks ordinary again. Empty. Quiet. Like nothing happened. Her phone remains pressed to her ear. "You were right," she says finally. "Yes." The confirmation is not triumphant. It's heavy. "They were watching," she continues. "Yes." "For how long?" "Unknown." The word feels like ice. "Was it random?" she asks, though she knows the answer. "No." Silence stretches. 5 years ago, she overheard men discussing leverage. She imagined scenarios like this, and she left before anyone could connect the dots. Now the dots are connected anyway. "You think it's related to the name change," she says. "Yes." Public records update. Visibility increases. Interest follows. Her chest tightens. "So, I did this. No. The denial is immediate. You did not create the threat, Dante says evenly. You revealed it. The distinction matters. They were already looking, he continues. Now they know the cost. She presses her palm against the window glass. Cool, solid, real. What happens now? She asks. They won't return. The certainty in his voice is absolute. And if they do, they won't. She exhales slowly. This is what power looks like when it moves quietly. Not chaotic, not reactive. Decisive. I was right to be afraid, she says softly. Yes. And wrong to run. A beat of silence. Yes. The truth lands without cruelty. 5 years of distance didn't eliminate risk. It postponed confrontation. And now confrontation stands on her street in the form of tinted windows and long camera lenses. Are you coming? She asks. Yes. The answer comes without hesitation. Not to storm. Not to dominate. To stand. She pulls the curtain closed fully and steps away from the window. Gabriel will be home from school in 3 hours. He doesn't need to know about gray sedans and intercepted surveillance. But Isabella knows something now with painful clarity. The risk she feared wasn't imagined. It was real. And running didn't erase it. It only delayed the moment it arrived. Dante arrives just before sunset. No convoy. No dramatic display of force. One black car that pulls to the curb and stops with quiet precision. Isabella watches from the front window this time without hiding. The street looks ordinary again. Children ride bikes at the end of the block. A dog barks somewhere in the distance. The gray sedan from earlier is gone, erased like it was never there. But she knows better. The risk wasn't imagined. It was intercepted. She opens the door before he rings the bell. He steps onto the porch and studies her face first. Not the house. Not the perimeter. Her. You're steady, he says quietly. I'm trying to be. He nods once and steps inside. Gabriel is in the living room, sprawled across the rug again, building another elaborate structure from blocks and toy soldiers. Hi, he says brightly when he sees Dante. Dante's expression softens almost imperceptibly. Hi. He doesn't disrupt the game, doesn't insert himself. He takes a seat in the armchair instead, watching. Isabella closes the door and leans against it for a moment before joining them. The house feels smaller tonight. Not because it's unsafe, because it's no longer anonymous. After a few minutes, Gabrielle looks up. Are you staying for dinner? Dante glances briefly at Isabella before answering. If that's okay. Gabriel shrugs as if it's obvious. Okay. Isabella gestures toward the kitchen. We need to talk. Dante stands without hesitation and follows her. No tension. No raised voices. Just wait. She folds her arms loosely. You intercepted them quickly. Yes. Who were they? Freelance surveillance, he says calmly, likely hired to confirm the name change. By who? Still verifying. The lack of panic in his tone steadies her more than reassurance would have. They had a camera, she says quietly. Yes. And if your men hadn't been here, they would have taken photographs and left. And then someone would have tested the perimeter more aggressively. The honesty lands heavy. She exhales slowly. This is what I was afraid of. I know. You think I overreacted 5 years ago. I think you reacted alone. Silence stretches between them. He steps slightly closer, lowering his voice. I'm not here to demand you move into my estate. The statement surprises her. You're not? No. She studies him carefully. You're not going to insist on relocation. No. Why? Because forced proximity breeds resentment, he replies evenly. And I don't need resentment in the middle of strategy. The precision in that statement almost makes her smile. So what are you offering? Transparency, he says first. You know when threats emerge. You know when they're neutralized. No filtering. She nods slowly. Shared custody, he continues. Structured time, not as a visitor, as a father. Her chest tightens slightly at the word. And visible protection, he finishes. Not overwhelming, not theatrical, but unmistakable. You mean the cars? Yes. And the cameras? Yes. She studies him carefully. You're not asking me to come back to you. He meets her gaze steadily. No. There's something restrained in that single word. You're not asking me to forgive you. No. You're not threatening legal action. No. She swallows. Then why are you here? His voice lowers just slightly. You don't have to love me, he says quietly, but he is my son. The words are steady, unapologetic, foundational. And I will not let him be a question mark in anyone's calculation. The phrasing is clinical, but beneath it is something far more personal. You think standing beside you makes him untouchable, she says. I think it makes the cost unbearable. Silence settles between them again. Do you regret signing the certificate? He asks after a moment. No. The answer surprises even her. He nods once. Good. She leans back against the counter. I don't want him growing up afraid. He won't. You can't promise that. I can promise he won't grow up alone. The distinction is subtle, but powerful. She looks toward the living room where Gabriel is humming to himself, unaware of surveillance and leverage and rival interests. You're not demanding control, she says softly. I don't need control. What do you need? He holds her gaze. Access. Not ownership, not dominance. Presence. I won't let you disappear again, he adds calmly. There's no threat in it. Just certainty. I'm not planning to, she replies. Good. A pause. And if I say I need time? She asks. You take it, he says. But you don't take him from me. The line is clear, firm, not negotiable. She exhales slowly. This isn't a battle. It's infrastructure. It's strategy layered over something far more fragile. You're building a perimeter around us, she says. Yes. And around him. Yes. And around yourself, she adds quietly. His expression shifts almost imperceptibly. Yes. The honesty lands softly this time. She studies him for a long moment. You don't have to love me, he repeats gently. But he is my son. The statement isn't romantic. It's irreversible. And for the first time since the envelope arrived, Isabella understands something clearly. He isn't here to reclaim her. He's here to stand beside their child. And that changes everything. Dinner is quieter than she expects. Not tense, not fragile, just unfamiliar. Gabriel insists Dante sit beside him at the table. He narrates every detail of his day between bites of pasta, who won at tag, how he almost finished a puzzle before recess ended, how Mrs. Carter says his handwriting is improving but dramatic. Dante listens, really listens. He asks questions that aren't performative. What was the puzzle of? Who usually wins at tag? Why dramatic? Gabriel beams under the attention, unaware of the weight shifting quietly in the room. Isabella watches it happen from across the table. This is what she denied him. This ordinary, unremarkable, sacred rhythm. After dinner, Gabriel drags Dante into the living room to show him the fortress he rebuilt. It's stronger now, he explains, adjusting a block carefully. You have to reinforce the corners. Dante crouches beside him. You always reinforce the corners, he agrees. Their heads tilt toward each other in the same angle of concentration. The resemblance is almost painful to witness. When the structure finally collapses under its own ambitious design, Gabriel laughs, instead of getting upset. We'll rebuild, he says confidently. Dante's gaze flickers to Isabella briefly. Yes, he says, we will. Later, when bedtime approaches, Gabriel hesitates at the hallway. He looks between them. Are you both coming? The question isn't dramatic. It's hopeful. Isabella nods first. Yes. Dante follows without comment. They walk into Gabriel's room together. The walls are painted a soft blue. Glow-in-the-dark stars cling unevenly to the ceiling. A stuffed dinosaur lies abandoned near the pillow. Gabriel climbs into bed and pulls the blanket up to his chin. Dante stands awkwardly at first, as if unsure where he belongs. Isabella gestures subtly toward the edge of the bed. He kneels instead, bringing himself to eye level. Gabriel studies him closely in the dim lamplight. Are you staying tomorrow too? He asks. Dante doesn't hesitate. Yes. And the next day? Yes. Gabriel's small fingers grip the edge of the blanket. For how long? The room goes very still. Isabella feels her breath pause in her chest. Dante leans slightly closer, resting one forearm against the mattress. I won't miss another day, he says quietly. Not dramatic, not grand, simple, promise-shaped. Gabriel considers that. You missed a lot already, he says honestly. Dante absorbs the statement without flinching. I know, he replies, and I can't change that. The honesty in it is clean, but I can change what happens next. Gabriel nods once, satisfied. Okay. He shifts under the blanket. Can you read the dinosaur book? Dante glances at Isabella. She hands him the book from the nightstand without speaking. He reads slowly, not rushed, not distracted. His voice steady, measured, unexpectedly gentle. Gabriel's eyelids grow heavier by the second. Halfway through the story, his breathing evens out. Asleep. Safe. Dante closes the book softly and sets it back on the nightstand. He doesn't stand immediately. He watches the rise and fall of his son's chest, as if committing it to memory. Isabella remains near the doorway, arms loosely folded. She sees it now clearly. The birth certificate wasn't leverage. It wasn't retaliation. It wasn't even anger. It was acknowledgement. A line signed in ink that said, "This child exists, and I stand beside him." Dante finally rises slowly. He doesn't touch Gabriel's hair, doesn't kiss his forehead. He respects the quiet of the moment. When he turns toward Isabella, there's no triumph in his expression. No victory. Just something grounded. You didn't ruin him by leaving, he says softly. She exhales shakily. And you didn't ruin him by signing. A faint flicker of something almost like relief crosses his face. The name isn't about possession, he says quietly. It's about permanence. I know. They step into the hallway together, closing the bedroom door halfway. The house feels different now. Not because danger vanished, because uncertainty did. You thought the signature was a threat, he says after a moment. I did. It wasn't. She studies him carefully. It was a claim. Yes. And a beginning. He doesn't argue with that. Down the hallway, Gabriel shifts in his sleep and murmurs something unintelligible. Dante's gaze instinctively moves toward the sound. Protective. Unforced. For 5 years, Isabella believed silence was protection. Tonight, she understands something different. Protection can be quiet. It can be signed in ink. It can kneel beside a bed and promise something simple. I won't miss another day. Signed, sealed, and finally spoken out loud.